It is interesting, you will permit me to say, that the first Jew in American history to win a delegate, much less a primary, is taking this position with Israel that is usually in American politics, and I'm not criticizing you for it, but is usually in this American politics, everyone just supports Israel, whatever Israel wants to do. You're taking a more critical position.
I'm taking a more balanced position.
You, balanced would be another interpretation of it. Welcome back to State of the Union. I'm Jake Tapper, just back from Brooklyn, where Bernie Sanders showed me around his home bureau a little bit. Why did you leave here and go to Vermont?
Because I prefer the rural life.
Back on the gritty streets of the city, he seemed right at home and not backing down from a fight with both Hillary Clinton and her husband. And this back and forth with Secretary Clinton about her qualifications. I know you have said that she is qualified. Bill Clinton today was asked about the comments and said, of course you wouldn't have made the same charges if she were a man. And he said, I think there are some different standards for women. Some of them are subconscious.
Well, I appreciate Bill Clinton being my psychoanalyst. It's always nice. But the reality is that ever since Wisconsin, when that became the 6th out of 7 states that we have won in either caucuses or primaries, I think the Clinton campaign has made it public. Basically, they've told the media that here in New York, they're about to become very negative, about to beat us up. And I just want them to understand that, we have tried to run an issue-oriented campaign, but that we are not going to be attacked every single day. Our record is not going to be distorted. We are going to fight back. And what I said is that a candidate like Secretary Clinton, who voted for the disastrous war in Iraq, who has supported virtually every disastrous trade agreement, which has cost us millions of decent paying jobs, and who receives incredible amounts of money. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars through a super PAC from every special interest that you can think of, and from the billionaire class, I have my doubts about what kind of precedent she would make.
But you would support her if need be.
Well, and by the way, in terms of experience, there's no question that she has the experience. But I think she and I would agree, and I hope that that is her view, that we will do everything possible to prevent this country from seeing a Donald Trump or some other Republican in the White House. That would be a disaster for this country, and I will do everything I can to prevent that.
I don't know if you saw any of the footage. Bill Clinton was in Philadelphia on Thursday, and he was at a rally, and he was disrupted by some Black Lives Matter protesters who were objecting to Hillary Clinton's use of the term super predators back in the 90s. Yeah. And he offered a very full-throated defense of not just the 1994 crime bill, but also the term at the time. What do you make of that specific debate?
Sorry, Jake, not going to go there.
No, forget Bill Clinton and forget the protesting. But what do you make of the super predator term and that debate?
I think that was. I think the secretary has said that she would not use that term again. I think it had race connotations at that period, and I think Secretary Clinton said that's not a phrase that she would use again.
During your recent interview with the New York Daily News editorial board, you were asked about Israel.
This famous interview with the New York Daily News.
Well, I'm not questioning how well you performed, but I do want to ask you about something you said in it, which is you said your recollection about the Israel-Gaza war was that over 10,000 innocent people were killed. Now, as you know...
Wait a minute, did you read the whole transcript, Jake?
I did.
Yes.
I read the entire transcript.
And what did I say in it? What I said is, am I right on that? I didn't know what the number was.
You didn't know what the number was. Absolutely, I understand.
And the gentleman there was the fellow who was conducting the meeting, said, let me check it. He Googled it up, and the number was, I think, 2,100. It does amaze me. I have to, if I say to you, you ask me a question, and I say, well, I think it's the number. What do you think? I'm not sure. And you come back and you say it's another number. I say, okay. Why is that a major production?
I get it. But as you know, the number was much lower.
Yes.
I want to ask you about a reaction that Michael Oren had to what you said.
Who is Mr.
Michael Oren, the former ambassador of Israel to the United States, and now he's a politician in Israel.
I see. And he is attacking me for a statement that I did not make.
Well, he's attacking you not only about the number, he's attacking you for your take on what happened by the Israeli...
All right, let's divide this
Forget the number part of it. Forget the number part of it.
Let's forget the number. I mean, let us, but the number is not forgotten, and it really does distress me. Was Israel's response disproportionate? I think it was. All right, Israel has a 100%, and no one will fight for that principle more strongly than I will, has the right to live in freedom, independently, and in security without having to be subjected to terrorist attacks. But I think that we will not succeed to ever bring peace into that region unless we also treat the Palestinians with dignity and respect. And that is my view. And
it is interesting, you will permit me to say, that the first Jew in American history to win a delegate, much less a primary, is taking this position with Israel that is usually in American politics, and I'm not criticizing you for it, but is usually in this American politics, everyone just supports Israel, whatever Israel wants to do. You're taking a more critical position.
You're taking a more balanced position.
You, balanced would be another interpretation of it. You didn't travel to AIPAC to give that speech.
Well, that was a schedule. I would have given, I did want to go to AIPAC. It was just a question of having to campaign on the West Coast. But I gave that speech, and I spoke to the fellow who was organizing the meeting for AIPAC, apologized for not being there.
But you take my point. That is it an only Nixon can go to China kind of thing, or?
I don't look at it that way. Look, this is the way I see it, whether you're Jewish or not Jewish. I would hope that every person in this country wants to see the misery of never-ending war and conflict ended in the Middle East. It's a difficult issue, and good people have tried to deal with it for years. All that I'm saying, as somebody who is absolutely pro-Israeli, absolutely 100% supports Israel's right to exist in peace and in security, I think that the only way we succeed is that if the United States plays a role, which says, of course we are going to support Israel, but you cannot ignore the needs of the Palestinian people. In Gaza right now, poverty, unemployment, their community has been decimated. You can't ignore that fact. And you can't just be only concerned about Israel's needs. You have to be concerned about the needs of all of the people in the region.
Hillary Clinton was asked this week about your charges of her taking money from the fossil fuel industry. She said, quote, "I feel sorry sometimes for the young people who believe this. They don't do their own research." I just wonder what you think about her take on young people who believe this, they don't do their own research.
Well, I think that's a little bit condescending. I'll tell you, my experience with young people, man, and I see them every day because they're coming out to our rallies. These are young people who want to be involved in shaping the future of this country. They're proud of this country. They want to make it a better country. I think they do a whole lot of research, and I think that the internet has opened up the opportunity for them to do a lot of research. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons I think we're doing so well is a lot of those people are going to the internet and hearing what we have to say and what Bernie Sanders believes in.
You also had an intense back and forth this week with General Electric. You accused them of destroying the moral fabric of America.
Well, among many others. It wasn't just that, it was talking about the greed of corporate America, including General Electric. And what I was saying, which is absolutely true, is you have a large multinational corporation that was, in a sense, born and raised right here in the United States, I think in Schenectady, New York, as a matter of fact. And here is a corporation that has shut down plants all over this country, moved to countries where they could find the cheapest possible labor. In fact, the guy who was head of General Electric before Jeff Immelt, he basically said that he'd like to see his manufacturing plants on a barge so they can move to the cheapest labor. They have, in a given year, paid nothing in federal income taxes. They are part of lobbying efforts in Washington to protect the interests of the wealthy. Yeah. So I think my comment was valid.
But you seem to give Apple a pass, even though they also manufacture a lot of products outside the United States.
Well, use General Electric as an example. You can look at many corporations. You're right. Apple does manufacture a lot of their products in China. And I sure as heck would like to see them. And if I have anything to do with it, and I will as president, to try to bring back manufacturing to the United States of America. But I think General Electric is a company which is well known for negotiating contracts with its workers, which call for concessions. sending jobs outside of this country and not paying their fair share of taxes. And that is, I think, a greedy corporation.
Jeff Immelt, the CEO of GE, criticized you. He said there's a GE plant in Vermont and you've never come by to visit.
He's not telling the truth.
You've been there?
Sure. Years ago, in Rutland, Vermont. Yeah, it's a large plant that makes airplane parts.
Lastly, sir, your campaign manager, Jeff Wiedever, said this week there will certainly be an open convention on the Democratic side if neither you nor Hillary Clinton goes over the magic number of delegates with pledged delegates alone. So I just want to make sure I understand this. You will contest and try to get the nomination even if Clinton has more votes and more pledged delegates after California.
Well, I think first of all, it's a long way off. We're 3 months off, and I'm not much into speculation about the future. I got a primary here on April 19th, which I'd like to win. We think we have a path toward getting more pledged delegates than Secretary Clinton. I think that if we continue to do better in general election polls in terms of defeating Trump by a much larger margin than Secretary Clinton and other Republican candidates, I think a lot of those superdelegates can say that what's most important is that we don't have a Trump in the White House, and we're going to support Bernie Sanders. But I think if neither candidate ends up, having the kind of votes they need, I think there'll be some discussion. But that's way off, and I'm not really thinking about that too much.
Senator Sanders, thanks so much.
Okay,
thanks for showing me your Brooklyn here.